After finding a mysterious book in her town's library, an orphan girl acquires the power to control people and decides to use it to become a music star. Today we're going to recap the story of the 2015 movie, Molly Moon's Incredible Book of Hypnotism. In a town in the English countryside, in the Hardwick Orphanage, lives a little girl called Molly Moon. In this home for abandoned children, everyone lives by the rules of the fearsome Mrs. Adderstone, who forbids the youngsters to have any kind of fun. The evil principal doesn't even allow the children to read, so Molly has to hide in the laundry room at night to venture into her books. Her best friend is a boy called Rocky, who interrupts her and invites her to steal a snack from the kitchen. On hearing the commotion, Adderstone goes after the children and manages to catch them red-handed. To avoid her friends being punished, Molly decides to take the blame and claims that it was her idea to break into the kitchen. As a punishment, the girl is forced to wash the toilets at the orphanage every week. The next day, the cook Edna serves the children fish soup for lunch and none of them can stand having to eat it. While she's eating, Molly talks about a talent contest that's going to be held at the school and says that Rocky needs to take part because he's an excellent musician. Just then, Adderstone appears and, on seeing the leaflet, decides to give Molly a new punishment. Now, as well as cleaning the toilets, she'll have to do the dishes all week. Later, while the girl is doing one of her chores, Rocky decides to sing a song to cheer her up and Molly once again tries to convince him to take part in the talent contest. However, overhearing the two youngsters' conversation, the principal says that the only way for them to leave that place is if they are adopted and, according to the woman, that will never happen. The only person Molly can lean on is Miss Trinkleberry, who also works at the Hardwick Orphanage and is always trying to console her. The next morning, the children leave Hardwick for a walk and Molly begins to wander aimlessly away from her classmates. Along the way, the girl sees a picture of Davina Nuttall on a billboard and says that her biggest dream is to be famous like her. Molly then enters a library and Lucy is happy to see her again. Hours later, Nachman appears and asks about a book written in 1908 that teaches about hypnotism. However, Lucy claims that the book is not in that library, but Nachman insists that he has heard that the book is there and claims to have come a long way to find it. While he searches the shelves, Molly finds the book in a hiding place that only she has access to and begins to read it. Hearing the man shouting at the librarian, Molly approaches and Nachman realizes that she has the book he is looking for. Immediately, Nachman starts chasing her, but Molly manages to lose the man and runs back to the orphanage. Hiding in the laundry room, she spends the whole afternoon reading those pages and discovers that hypnotism is a gift that few people have. To find out if she has this ability, Molly has to look into her own eyes through the mirror and try to enter a trance. However, she is interrupted by Adderstone's dog and takes the opportunity to test her skills on the animal. So the young woman sets her sights on Petula and manages to make the dog more docile than ever. It's almost dinner time and Molly can't stand eating fish soup any longer. So she decides to use her new skills on Edna and convinces the cook to prepare a delicious spaghetti. During dinner, the principal appears and announces that a couple is coming next Saturday to adopt one of the older children. Adderstone wants to put Rocky up for adoption, so she can separate him from Molly. When she hears this, the young woman is happy for her friend, but Rocky says he doesn't want to leave without her. Then Molly says that they will always be together and promises that she will think of a plan so that they don't have to separate. After dinner, Trinkleberry goes to the principal's office and remembers that she promised that Molly and Rocky would be adopted together. Then the woman says that if Adderstone breaks this promise, she will report her to the board of directors. Meanwhile, a few kilometers from the orphanage, Nachman receives a phone call from his mother and reveals that he is planning to rob a bank. However, to do this, he needs the hypnosis book that Molly stole. The good news is that Nachman has already found out where the girl lives and is working on a plan to get the book back. The very next morning, the man breaks into the orphanage and is about to go up to the second floor when he is approached by the principal. Afraid she'll call the police, Nachman says he's there to apply for the job of janitor and Adderstone takes him to clean the sewage tank. That night, when Trinkleberry arrives at the orphanage, the principal asks for her help to change a light bulb and, as the woman climbs onto the chair, Adderstone knocks her down the stairs. After that, Trinkleberry is taken to hospital and the evil principal is free to decide the children's future without the intervention of the board of directors. Hours later, while the kids are asleep, Nachman uses a ladder to try to break into Molly's room, but is caught by Adderstone and ends up falling. The next morning, the girl decides to pay the principal a visit to try out her new skills on her. The problem is that, according to the book, bitter people are less likely to be affected by hypnosis, but Molly succeeds in her mission and orders the principal to be kind to all the children in the orphanage from now on. That Saturday, the school talent show will take place and Rocky is about to perform, but his friend hasn't shown up yet and the idea of going on stage without Molly's support makes him nervous. While the boy awaits the arrival of his partner, the young woman is busy and convinces Adderstone to propose that the couple visiting the orphanage adopt Hazel instead of Rocky. She then orders her to change the records so that Molly and Rocky can only be adopted together. Just then, the girl hears the sound of the clock and remembers the talent contest. She quickly rushes to school, but can't get there in time and Rocky drops out of the competition. When he returns to the orphanage, the boy discovers that the couple are already there to visit the children and presents himself in the best possible way to impress them. When she gets home again, Molly receives the news that Rocky has been chosen by the couple and is leaving for London. Frightened, the girl tries to understand what has happened, but she barely has the chance to say goodbye to her friend as he is soon taken away by his new family. The truth is that Rocky didn't want to leave like that, but he was so angry at being left in the lurch by his best friend that he decided to leave so that he would never have to see her again. Seeing the sadness in the girl's eyes, Gemma advises her to go after Rocky and asks Molly to bring him back before Christmas. At that moment, Nachman is mowing the lawn and spots Molly going through some files in the principal's office. The man then approaches and orders the girl to return the book she stole from the library. He tries to hold her back, but Molly kicks him in the shin and runs off after stealing Rocky's adoption papers. Nachman immediately goes after her, but is attacked by Petula and has an accident. The dog then runs into Molly's arms and the young woman has to take her. When she arrives in the city, she finds a bus on its way to London and uses her hypnotic abilities to convince the driver to give her a lift there. After saying goodbye to the new friends she has made along the way, Molly walks to a hotel and hypnotizes the manager into getting her the best suite. The next morning, after a long night's rest, the girl gets the address of the couple who adopted Rocky and sets off on a journey to find them. When the intercom rings, she is answered by Mr. Alabaster, who informs Rocky about the visit. When they meet, the two friends hug and Molly tells him that she has acquired the ability to hypnotize people. She invites Rocky to return to the orphanage, but the boy says he can't leave because that couple are his family now. Then, before her friend returned home, Molly gave him a photo of the hotel where she was staying and asked him to come and visit her. That afternoon, while standing on the roof of the building watching the city, Molly talks to Petula and wonders what she should do now that her friend refuses to accompany her back to Hardwick. Just then, the dog turns on the TV and Molly sees Davina Nuttall taking part in a famous program. The young woman has absolutely everything Molly has ever dreamed of and she discovers that there will be an audition to choose singers and dancers who will perform alongside Davina in her next musical show. In the hope of becoming a star, Molly decides to take part in the auditions. However, just as she is about to perform, something goes wrong and the auditions are cancelled. While everyone is being sent back to their homes, Molly sneaks into the studio and goes to talk to the producer. After hypnotizing Barry, the girl manages to convince him to replace Davina and becomes the main star of the show. In the following weeks, Molly has the opportunity to fulfill her biggest dream and become a famous artist. One evening, after taking part in a photo shoot, Molly is invited to appear on one of England's most famous shows alongside Petula. Through her hypnosis, the girl wins admirers wherever she goes and is approached by fans who have come from all over the country to see her. However, when the young woman offers to perform on stage, Davina discovers that her understudy has no musical talent and soon realizes that something is wrong. Later, Molly receives a visitor in her dressing room and is accused by Davina of having bribed the producer to get the part, as she can neither sing nor dance. Worried about being discovered, the girl studies how to hypnotize a crowd and discovers that it is possible to control a maximum of 10 people at once. While resting in her hotel room, Molly receives a call from Jerry and the boy tells her that he heard about her on the radio. The young man says that since Molly left, Mrs. Adderstone has been acting strangely and is treating the children better than ever. Jerry then asks when his friend will be coming home, but Molly has to get off the phone and doesn't answer his question. The girl is on her way to the show when she meets hundreds of fans eager to see her on stage. At that moment, the girl gets out of the limousine and hands out some autographs, then ends up being recognized by Nachman's mother, who has been following Molly's career on TV. Immediately, the woman calls her son and reveals the whereabouts of the orphan who stole the book. That evening, Rocky is attending a dinner party to meet his new parents' friends and Mr. Alabaster asks the boy to demonstrate his musical talent. However, just like in the talent contest, Rocky can't play and leaves after handing the guitar over to the man. Shortly afterwards, Molly performs on stage and uses a magnifying glass to make everyone look at her eyes. In this way, she manages to mesmerize the entire audience in the auditorium and the audience watching the show on TV. During his friend's concert, Rocky decides to run away from home and walks the streets looking for the hotel where Molly is staying. Meanwhile, Davina breaks into the dressing room of the girl who stole her fame and, while going through her things, discovers that Molly is an orphan. The girl then finds the hypnosis book and realizes that it was through this technique that she was able to get the public to like her music. Just then, Nachman appears and tries to steal the book, but Davina attacks him and the two start a duel. When the security guard hears the noise, he enters the dressing room and the two intruders have to hide to avoid being arrested. While trying to lose the guard, Nachman ends up falling into a garbage dump and receives a call from his mother. The woman informs him that Craig and his henchmen are going to rob the Shorings bank the next morning. Then, after they've done all the hard work, Nachman must use hypnosis to convince them to hand over all the jewels they've stolen. Finally, the woman advises her son to forget the book and capture the girl to force her to use her skills to convince Craig to hand over the precious stones. After the show, Molly is approached by a group of journalists who praise her for the great show and say that her family must be very proud. At this point, the young woman remembers Rocky and begins to miss her old life, because she had people who really loved her. Sitting on stage, Molly regrets having deceived all those people and, when she returns to her dressing room, she meets Davina. Surprised, the girl realizes that her secret has been discovered and asks for forgiveness for stealing the young singer's place. Molly then says she no longer wants to be famous and, after making up with Davina, says it's time to go home. When she is about to leave the hotel, she meets Rocky again and, together with Petula, the youngsters plan to return to the orphanage to meet their friends again. Before heading to the bus stop, Molly explains to her friend how she managed to become famous and shows him the hypnosis book. Just then, Nachman appears and uses a treat to lure Petula away. After capturing the dog, the man flees and then a hotel employee delivers a letter that has been sent to Molly. Upon reading it, the two youngsters realize that Petula has disappeared and will be eliminated if Molly doesn't show up at the location indicated on the map. The letter says that the girl needs to go alone, so she asks Rocky to wait outside and enters the building to find Nachman. When she finds him, the young woman is also captured and discovers that the man intends to use her abilities to rob a bank. That morning, they hide behind a bush while Craig and his gang carry out the robbery. After taking the jewels, the gang flees in an armored car, but is surprised by Molly, who positions herself in front of the vehicle and then uses her powers to hypnotize them. In this way, she convinces the criminals to hand over the armored car to Nachman and they both drive away from the bank. What neither of them realizes is that Rocky is hiding on top of the vehicle and accompanying them the whole way. Minutes later, they arrive at a warehouse and Molly orders him to release her, as they have made a deal. However, Nachman is unwilling to keep his end of the bargain and locks the girl and Petula in a cage. Upon opening the back of the vehicle, the man discovers that there is a safe inside that can only be opened through iris recognition. Soon after, new thieves appear and Nachman is attacked. When the thief who kicked him removes his mask, he discovers that he has been tricked by his own mother, who was working with Craig all along. The woman then walks towards Molly and tells her that she has a new job to do. She then forces the girl to use her skills to bypass the security system and open the safe. After getting her hands on the jewels, the woman orders Craig and his henchmen to lock her son in the cell with Molly and Nachman feels betrayed. At that moment, the girl realizes that her friend has followed her and Rocky devises a plan to free her before the criminals notice his presence. Knowing that Molly is capable of hypnotizing even a machine, the boy takes a mirror and places it in front of the truck. In this way, the girl can lock the safe's security system and, with the help of a pair of binoculars, trap the criminals inside the vehicle. After freeing Nachman, Molly convinces him to return the jewels and calls the police anonymously. That day, the criminals are arrested and the two orphans return home. Before leaving, Molly asks what Nachman intends to do from now on and the man says he will give up a life of crime because he doesn't want to end up in prison like his mother. Now he is alone, as he has no friends or close family. So the kids say they can be his friends and invite Nachman to visit them at the orphanage whenever he wants. So, after buying Christmas presents for all the children living in Hardwick, the two friends take a bus back home with Petula and are greeted with great joy by their colleagues. Then Miss Trinkleberry appears and Molly is happy to hear that she has been released from hospital. When she finds her, the woman reveals that Adderstone has lost her position as director of the orphanage and will be leaving that afternoon. So the girl goes to the former principal's office to say goodbye and discovers that she is no longer hypnotized. Before leaving, the woman decides to give Molly something and reveals that, when she was found on the doorstep of the orphanage, there was a letter and a pendant with her. When Adderstone leaves, the girl returns to the library, where she finds Lucy. After taking the book, the librarian reveals that she left it in that hiding place so that Molly could find it. Before returning to the orphanage, the girl thanks Lucy and goes to spend Christmas Eve in the best possible way, with Miss Trinkleberry and her friends. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.